kind of impression that many of them have. And women should not, you know, they should not look at yoga as as though it's a burden for them, and as though they are overloaded. They should not overload their schedule, but as a necessary activity that will help them to handle life effectively. And that is what really we'll have to go about telling them, especially in this day when we are always bending over our phones, our laptops, our whole thing. You'll find that our bodies, our spine, our posture is really in a bad state. And especially your neck, your posture, your thing. And what does yoga do? It aligns your vertebrae, it aligns your posture, and it really is excellent for the nervous system, because of that we are getting all these problems and pains and aches, which we really have a big problem about. And also, like Upasana was telling us before, it is excellent for the moods. And nowadays, especially in this COVID time, I've seen people that they are depressed, their depression, their anxiety, their sadness, anger. It is really, and honestly, the yoga is something that will really help them. It really helps them. It helps their breathing, their pranayam. It really makes them come together. It helps them to focus. And I firmly believe that yoga really nurtures, supports, and empowers women of all ages. In fact, I have been doing yoga for 35 years. And I really say that because of yoga, I have been able to, go through with my busy schedule and go right through. The other thing that yoga does is keeps you young, like Upasana was saying. Like, we have even face yoga, and believe it or not, you can guarantee you will look 10 years younger. You don't need all those fancy treatments to look young if you do yoga. Yoga is really amazing. And I'm really happy to be a part of this valuable discussion. And I look forward to hearing the other panelists what they have to say and bring to us, because I really believe in yoga, and yoga can take you as wherever you want. It's the best exercise in the world. It is for your body, your pranayam, for your breathing. Breathing gives you this oxygen that you need. And what is that really fills you with energy and oxygen. So a meditation helps you to focus. I tell everyone, just try meditation. It's not for the old people, it's for the young also. It helps you to focus. And another thing, I'm so happy that my grandson, he's a youngster, but they are doing it. And I think it has already started, this snowball. And so now let's hear what everyone has to say. Thank you, Sanjana, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kocher. And now we know the secret of your beauty and youth. It's definitely aromatherapy and yoga. And thanks to Assocham, right through the pandemic, Assocham has kept bringing women, the Shakti together to, I should say, enforce our energy and rejuvenate all of us. And thanks to, of course, the medical and the aromatherapy practices, I think we're all able to understand the power of meditation, yoga, and everything that we need at this time. So thank you, Dr. Kocha. And I love the story about the guru. So it's something that I'm sure we all will sit and think about. So thank you. And with that, we move on to our next panelist, Dr. Kanika Sharma. Sorry, when I was reading about, I couldn't even fathom the terms of the things you have studied. So I'm sure I felt like kids when they sit and listen to Shashi Tharoor reading, those difficult words. But we welcome you, and we would love to hear your output and input onto yoga and women.
Thank you so much, Sanjana ji, for that kind introduction. I believe you're not the only one who finds our radiation words as tongue twisters. Even the medicos find difficult to spell these words, and they spell it wrong all the time. So I think I have the onus of educating people in terms of that also, that what do we do? So I think from the terms of yoga, this pandemic particularly has highlighted a lot of things. We all agree to this, that it has given us the importance of health and wellness. All those people who had been practicing some sort of exercise, had built their immunity and their lung capacity, have walked out even from the gravest of the situations. Whereas the ones who had not been practicing any form and we would say were not in the best of their shapes in terms of their immunity as well as the lung capacity, did not actually come out of it. So it is the importance. It was no amount of money could save people, no amount of contacts could save people. It was your own body which helped. So I think this is something which has highlighted in the pandemic. I have, right from the beginning of the pandemic, right since last April, highlighted the importance of yoga. Why? Because when people were locked down last year, my colleagues told me, you do so much of awareness, talk about fitness, how to stay fit at home. I always talked about yoga because that is something does not require big space. It just requires a 6 feet of a mat, can be practiced anywhere. So I think it is one unique exercise, although I would not say it's just an exercise, it's a way of living. Your ahar, your vichar, everything is yoga. Your karma, everything is yoga. So I think it is one form of exercise, the lifestyle, which is easy to adopt, not very demanding, not very difficult. And we talk of women who can't find time. I think this is the best thing they can adopt. This is the only format which a woman can do even at home without having to, spend a lot of time apart from her schedule. So it is important because yoga is said to be like a divine Kamdhenu. Kamdhenu can give you everything. It gives you spirituality, it gives you mental peace, it gives you physical benefits. So you just have to materialize it. As an oncologist, I have always found the value of yoga in patients. I have seen that it builds their physical and mental resilience. There is a release of endorphins, there are release of serotonin, which are healing. Those people who are in positive frame of mind, are practicing some sort of meditation and yoga, always have a better outcome in their disease. Those people who are negative, I have seen people, 3-4 weeks back, I had a woman, she said, she just told her husband, hum to mar hi jayenge. I said, don't think like that. And unfortunately, she had such a turmoil of events. She is admitted with me with a bad disease. So your thoughts become reality. And this is what all yoga teaches you. It helps you push out those negative thoughts and adopt positivity. I think these are the benefits which are very, very long stretched. Then I would say, yoga also helps you to get rid of that vipraya mode. It helps your body to come out of that distorted response, because COVID is initially inflammation and then it is abnormal inflammation. Your body immunity has become distorted. So yoga helps with that. And as my journey, I think my journey as yoga started even before I was, born. I'm a daughter of a yogi. So yoga is in my genes. It is in my family values. So I've always seen yoga happen all around me. And even the punishments we used to get was Tadasana. Go stand with the wall with your arms stretched up. That will help you to even gain height. So yoga came in like that. I had a spiritual diary, which I used to use every day for my school academics, for your assemblies. And I still use it in one form. I have a very small word written in my OPD. I've just written a word, Santosh. Whenever I get time, whenever I'm very busy, I'll tell you, I always wish I had a 25th hour to finish off my work. But whenever I get time, I look at Santosh. I've kept it right where I keep my head screen so that I can see it also. And I just wait there. I just think of it for 2 minutes. That is also yoga. So it is how you do it, how you find time to do it. That is more important. Apart from yoga, I'll be digressing. I'm sitting at a place. This is my Natya Shala. This is my dance place. So I also feel dance is also meditation. So an hour of just dancing away, nobody watching you, also gives you a lot of serotonin. It gives you a lot of endorphins, and it resets you and brings you back. People ask you, you're an oncologist, so much of turmoil of emotions come in front of you. How are you smiling? So I think it is yoga and all these practices which help you. So I think it is just an integration of different dimensions of yoga which help you in building your immunity, help you to be blissful, positive. You have to be positive because this pandemic, nobody knows. Uncertainties tend to remain. But if you are positive, I think you will be able to come out of it less scarred, because all of us have had very, very painful experiences in some form or the other in this pandemic. So I'll not take much of your time. I can spot Sadhviji is already there. I would not want her to keep waiting. Pranam to her, and over to you, Sanjana ji.
Thank you, Dr. Kanika. Pranam, Sadhviji. We're going to come to you. Everybody is eagerly anticipating your talk, but we're going to get to you soon. But Kanika ji, I love the fact that yoga and dancing both go hand in hand. I think I'm going to try that. But the only asana I know is Shavasana, and I'm so happy doing that every time I get a chance to. But I will try the dancing part for sure. And we thank you for your enlightenment. And we're going to quickly go on to Mrs. Tara Manyar, spiritual life coach, certified chakra dancer, felicitator, and speaker.
Wow, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So thank you, Kanika ji, for speaking about Santosh. Today I'm going to be speaking about ahimsa. And it's interesting that when I'm talking about ahimsa in action, I actually just experienced it. I have been trying to get on for the last 35 minutes onto this panel, so I must apologize. I haven't heard anything. I just came on. So how do we live ahimsa, which is one of the yamas of yoga in our day-to-day life, in every single moment? And this morning was an excellent example of how to live ahimsa in each moment. So things didn't go right. I tried to get on and it wouldn't accept me. I could get frustrated. I could get angry. I could get upset that the links were not sent to me early enough. But you know what? You really pay attention and you realize that this is what it is, and you bring in Santosh and you stay contented and say, this is what I've got and this is what I work with. So ahimsa. Ahimsa is recognized by the Canadian government as a human rights concept, as the oldest human rights concept. And when we look at what ahimsa means, it says, do not kill. That's the literal translation. But what do we really mean by ahimsa? Do not cause harm in thoughts, words, and actions. So when we look at our thoughts, everything begins in our thoughts. And the spiritual masters talk about watch your thoughts. Now that's easy to say, watch your thoughts. So you see the thoughts, but how do we change that thought to ahimsa, to live ahimsa in every single moment? What I did was I learned from Pujya Swamiji Chiranand Saraswati of Parmarth Niketan Ashram the magic formula of meditation, no reaction, and introspection. And I decided to live this meditation in the morning, in no reaction during the day, and introspection in the evening. And when I got it really down, I knew what I was doing, I got permission to teach meditation, no reaction, and introspection. And I thought it was such a simple thing. But you know what? Teaching this formula in the Western world, I got a lot of pushback on meditation. Don't have time to meditate. Don't know how to meditate. And I decided let's break the meditation down into two parts. Set an intention in the morning before you sit down to meditate. Set that intention. And what I did was I used ahimsa as my intention. I used it for days, weeks, months, just ahimsa. And the beautiful thing that came was the essence of ahimsa emerged. So when we look at what does ahimsa mean, what does it look like in action? It's love and compassion. It is no judgment. It is accepting all as it is and working with whatever that's given to you. Seeing it as prasad, even the challenges that comes into your life, accepting those challenges and saying, okay, this is what's given to me. What can I do with it? And when I connect with the divine within me, ahimsa, and in all its different forms, in whatever form that is required in that moment, comes to you. So each moment, I will pay attention. So I set my intention in the morning, ahimsa, or any of the different forms, kindness, love, compassion, no judgment, caring, just being gentle with myself, as I did earlier today, with others, as I did earlier today, just allowing it to flow, because now you're consciously thinking of ahimsa during the day. You're paying attention to your intention in every single moment. It takes only a second to remind yourself of that intention. And then in the evening, you take a moment and you do a check-in. So, how did you do? Yes, you've set your intention in the morning. That's really easy to do. Yes, you've connected. When individuals will say to me, I don't have time to meditate or to sit and connect. I said, well, do you drive a car to work? And he said, yeah. I said, well, can you pay attention to your intention while you're driving your car to work? Can you pay attention to your breath, bringing in the prana, the life force, paying attention to your breath? How important is your breath? Breath is life. We can only live maybe 3 or 4 minutes without your breath, but most of us don't pay attention to our breath. So I taught my participants to set that intention and bring it into every breath. Some people will say, well, I go walking or I go running in the morning instead of sitting and meditating. I said, no problems. While you are walking, while you are running, every step is your intention. Then it becomes a part of who you are. Every single moment. Now, in the evening,
Karanji, we
yes,
have time because we have to get to Puja Sadhviji soon. So we just need to be a little quicker so I can take on the other two. I'm sorry, we just have time.
no problems. You didn't say how long, and I
Yes.
will finish it up just by in the evening.
Yeah.
So what we've done, in the morning, we set our intention, we connect with ourselves. During the day, we pay attention to our intention, and in the evening, we check in. Everything that went well, we give credit to the divine and to anyone that supported us in making it well. You could even stroke your ego a little if you want. Everything that didn't go so well, you ask yourself, what was it about that situation that caused me to react in that manner? And then you release the question, you release the day, and you sit quietly just for a few minutes, for as long as you need, and you listen for the answer. You don't try to figure it out, because if you knew the answer, it would have come to you. You wouldn't have done it. To listen for the answer, and you allow the answer to come. And this is how you bring ahimsa into every single moment in your life. And you can use this at work, at home, and at leisure. Thank you so much for allowing me to
So
speak.
much.
I apologize for coming on late. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much,
and
Kiji, again for enlightening.
pranam, Sadhviji.
We are gonna get over to Pranam Sadhviji. We are coming to you soon. It's such a pleasure seeing you. Always a pleasure, and we're gonna quickly get to you, which is what everybody is eagerly waiting for. So just give us a minute. We're gonna quickly have our gorgeous, and always smiling. Ganga Nandini, Karma Yoga practitioner, director, project implementation and communication, Global Interfaith Wash Alliance. Nandini ji, we love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Sanjana ji. I think in the interest of time, we will just chant one Om and three Shantis and get right to it. So let's close our eyes, hands in prayer, hands at heart center. Let's take a deep breath in. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Pranam, Pujya Sadhviji. Thank you so much for sparing your time and for joining this panel and for gracing us all. Thank you so much, Sanjana ji, for doing such a beautiful job moderating this beautiful panel and really being the sutradhar of this entire panel of Shaktis. And the beautiful panel, without saying the names of all of the beautiful Shaktis, but thank you so much for your words and for your inspiration and for your journeys and your stories. And just very briefly and very quickly, I think when we were curating the panel and we were talking about bringing these divine feminine together and celebrating the gift of yoga and really speaking about yoga and wellness and how do we bring the divine feminine together, we felt that there should be youth also on this panel. And so as that, I wanted to be here to represent that entire big group and give a voice. That's a big job to be done, but I will try to do a little humble justice to it. And I also wanted to be able to share what a beautiful blessing it is to really be in the presence of spiritual masters like His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji, Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati Ji, my personal journey all the way from Los Angeles, California, here on the banks of Rishikesh, and now serving in multifaceted programs from schools and water stations and toilets and clean drinking water facilities and a number of different women empowerment programs, work that we're doing with youth, and it's really all yoga. And that is what I wanted to really just hone here is a lot of what we see and we perceive as yoga as just being asana or this fitness regime. But what is so beautiful is when you live with the masters, you not only get the teachings, but you get the touch and the example of what yoga is. Because yoga is beyond asana. Yoga is that which makes jivan asan, which makes life easy. It makes life flow with ease. And when we are living in this state of union, which is what yoga means, then we are living in wellness. We are exuding wellness. We are giving wellness. We are sharing wellness. And that is a practice. And I feel like, you know, I'm on this journey and we've got all these beautiful experts here and we get to listen to Sadhviji and have a session with her on question and answer. So not really speaking from a space of as an expert, but just as a student. What a beautiful journey it is to be on this path of yoga. And whether you are there or not, and if you're listening to this panel, and if you get to watch these beautiful speakers, all of the words are only as good as your practice. So apply these teachings, start yoga wherever you are, do yoga, be yoga, as Pujya Swamiji says, love yoga, learn yoga, and live yoga in every minute and in every moment, not just one day, but every day, in every moment. And that is what we get to see from the example of our masters and from our teachers, like Pujya Swamiji, like Sadhviji, and we get to hear from their words and see their divine example and just merely their darshan. Because, you know, Pujya Swamiji says, lastly, कि कर्म की खुशबू होती है, कपड़ों की एक अपनी पहचान होती है, लेकिन कर्मों की खुशबू होती है. उन्होंने जिस तरह से अपने जीवन को जिया है, the way that they have lived their lives is their example, and this is the fragrance that they share with us, and simply being in that presence is magical. So with that, I would love to hear Sadhviji myself. So thank you so much, Sanjana ji, and the entire team, Payal ji. We'll get to the vote of thanks at the end for all the beautiful Shaktis who have come together. And thank you so, so much, Sadhviji, for sparing your time and for gracing us all here today.
Thank you, Nandini. Once again, I have been so blessed to have the presence and the learnings from the great masters. And Sadhviji, I have been blessed to have been in a presence, learned, and got blessed. So Jai Gange, and it's a great honor and pleasure having you here. We present our most gorgeous, beautiful, and I should say the most caring and giving Puja Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati ji. We welcome you to the panel and we wait to hear from you.
It's such a beautiful joy to be with you, and especially to be joining together with so many of my beloved sisters, and to be able to share with you on this special occasion of International Yoga Day. And in many ways, this is yoga, this is union. All of us coming together. So it's a wonderful joy, and I'm so happy to be able to connect with you all. And as we're talking about yoga and wellness, it's interesting because for many, many, many years, decades, perhaps centuries, but certainly decades that I've seen, our definition of wellness expanded and expanded and expanded. I mean, I just have watched throughout my life what our definition of wellness was, and suddenly it's expanding into our emotional wellness and our spiritual wellness, and even on a physical level, cellular wellness. And yet something very interesting has happened over the last year and a half, which is that our definition of wellness went like this. Suddenly, with the coming of COVID, wellness became simply, you don't have a cough, you don't have a fever, you aren't COVID positive, you haven't been near someone who's COVID positive. And that entire definition of wellness, interestingly, became very, very narrow. And it's exciting to be able to re-expand that awareness, because we all know that wellness is a lot more than just not having a fever. We know that wellness is a lot more than not having a cough. We know it's a lot more than being COVID negative. Yes, that's a great thing to be, but it's the beginning. It's not the package. And what I love about this conversation, and particularly as we bring wellness and women and yoga together, is that semantically, if you look in the English language, we'll come to Sanskrit in a moment, but if you look at the English language, the roots, the etymology of the words health, wholeness, and holiness actually are the same root. And so we look to language a lot because it's so old that our deep cultural foundations in many ways can be found in our language. And so we realize that ancestrally, they knew that health required not just, a good annual checkup, but that it required wholeness and it required holiness. And that sense of a fullness and also a spirituality is something that is missing too much from our conversations around health and wellness these days. And as we are here at the time of International Yoga Day, it's a beautiful opportunity to come back and to say, okay, so what is real yoga? What is wellness? Where's the role of the divine feminine here? We'll come to that at the end. And for me, the teachings, the framework for that understanding have been given so beautifully by the sage Patanjali, because when we shift from the English to the Sanskrit, when we shift from this etymology of health and wholeness and holiness into the Sanskrit, well, yog, we know, means union. We also know that it's a union of ourselves to the divine, that it isn't just that union that we always say of our, nose to our knees or our fingers to our toes. It's not, oh, here I am doing Jana Shirshasana, for example, and finally, I got my nose to my knee. Or here I am in Uttanasana, finally, I got my fingers to my toes. It's not that union. Now, that's great. Our bodies need to be healthy. Our bodies need to be strong. There is that health component. In Hindi, we say sharir ek mandir hai. So the physical aspect of the body is essential. And it's neither the beginning nor the end. And this is where I love looking at the framework that Patanjali gave us, because we don't have time today to go into all of it, but I've been online for a while and I've been listening, and I know that both Taraji, Ganganandani ji, and I'm sure earlier speakers have also addressed aspects of this. But if we just look at this aspect of wholeness and what Patanjali gave us about that, well, so much of our illness today is due to this myth of separation. And so I feel separate from God. I feel separate from myself. I feel separate from others. I feel separate from the creator and the creation. And so I suffer. And when I suffer, I bring suffering unto others. We've seen a lot over the last year with regard to the rights and justice regarding people of different colors, people of different races, of different religions, of different sexual orientations, different gender identities, whatever it may be, we're at a time now where it is absolutely incumbent upon us to break those false definitions, those false identities, that sense of I and you, or we and them. Those borders have to dissolve. And that's what yoga does, because not only does the separation give me depression and anxiety and misery, loneliness, sadness, turning to addiction to somehow fill the hole with drugs or alcohol or food or gambling or sex or Facebook or whatever it may be. But I also then bring suffering to others when I feel separate from others. I harm them, either in word, in deed, whether through acts of commission, I do something to them, or acts of omission, I step back and stand aside and allow violence and injustice to be wrought upon them. We also bring suffering to Mother Earth and all of our sisters and brothers of every corner of the earth when we feel separate, when we forget that we are the trees and the river and the air and the soil, and we are every child dying of diarrhea, and we are every woman and girl walking kilometers with a bucket to fill up one bucket of water that then they have to use for drinking and cooking and bathing. When we feel separate from them, when we feel separate from those who are hungry, starving, we allow ourselves to continue to bring suffering upon them. When we feel separate from those working in sweatshops, we allow ourselves to continue to bring suffering upon them. And what Patanjali gave us was this beautiful system of understanding and implementation of a system of union that brings us out of our ignorance, out of our depression, out of our misery, into oneness, into that joy, that bliss of samadhi that we speak about, but also that enables us to live with the awareness of wholeness in such a way that we bring healing unto the world. And if we look at, for example, just the Yama Niyam, well, the Yama Niyam tell us how to move through the world with yoga, with Dharma. They are not just the stepping stones of an asana practice or a pranayama practice or ultimately attaining samadhi. Even if you're not interested in asana or pranayama, or you're not interested in samadhi, but you're just interested in living a dharmic life, well, Yama Niyam are the answers. The Yama Niyam are the ones that remind us how to live non-violently, how to live truthfully, how to live without stealing and hoarding and grabbing that which is the rest of the world. And if we simply implemented the first 3 or 4 of Yam and Niyam, we literally could heal the world. Not only would violence and crime be over, but environmental destruction would be over. If we literally move through the world non-violently, through acts of commission and acts of omission, and we stop allowing ourselves to believe lies about what animals feel or don't feel, about what's our government's responsibility versus what's our responsibility, about whether climate change is real or not real, about our unique essential role in the protection and the preservation of this planet and all of our sisters and brothers with whom we share it, if we really allow ourselves to live in that truth, we will stop stealing. We'll stop stealing the grain out of the hands of our sisters and brothers who are dying of starvation that goes into the production of our hamburgers and hot dogs and chicken McNuggets. We'll become vegetarians and vegans, not just because of the animals, but because of our sisters and brothers who are suffering hunger, because of what is happening to the water on this planet and the hundreds of millions of water refugees that we will have shortly, because of the inordinate amount of water that the meat industry takes. We'll shop differently. We'll buy organic. We'll buy fair trade. We'll understand it may be a little more expensive, but we'll be prepared to buy 5 shirts instead of 10 shirts rather than having this mantra of more, cheaper, cheaper, cheaper. Because we'll understand that the women and children working in sweatshops are us. And so that experience of wholeness gives me the awareness that I'm not my physical body. And this is really powerful, by the way, because we're speaking about women. And far too many women in the world feel so identified with their bodies in a negative way. I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too fair or pale, I'm too dark, I'm too old, I'm too young. We really become prisoners in that physical body. The way that society judges it, the way that we've then internalized that. And yoga helps us, become friends with our bodies. The more we do yoga, literally just the yoga on the mat, the practice of asana, the practice of pranayama, it's a way of really realizing, hey, this extraordinary creation that the divine has given me, this human body, is so beautiful. Look what it does. Look how it feels. Look how I'm able to become friends with it. So that wholeness that I gain, beginning with a friendship with my body, but moving into the awareness that I'm not my body, that I am one with all, pulls me out of the depression, out of the anxiety, out of the misery, into joy and peace. But it also makes me much more of an asset to planet Earth. And, you know, Puja Swamiji, my guru, always says, when I becomes we, then illness becomes wellness. And, you know, when you look at it, just the actual word, if you remove the I of the word illness and you substitute WE, then literally the word illness becomes the word wellness. But when we look at it on a deeper level, that which we are suffering from is being trapped in our own egos, being trapped in this myth of separation. And of course, then we bring that suffering unto others. Those of us with the luxury to choose what we eat, what we buy, what we wear, how we live, how we shop, we choose in ways that bring suffering to others. But when I becomes we, when I realize there is no place I end and you begin, which is really the hallmark of a spiritual life. Spirituality just literally means pertaining to spirit, means I am aware that along with this human body, I am the spirit that flows through me, and that same spirit flows through you. And there is nowhere I end and you begin. And so when we realize that, then personally, but also in our world, illness becomes wellness. And when we look at women, I want to come back to this. I know time is short. I want to also have time for questions and answers, but just before I conclude, bringing it to the women and bringing it to the Shakti, when you look at the sheer percentage of women as yoga students and as yoga teachers today, even if we speak just for a moment about asana, it's a huge percentage. I don't know what it is, but it's way over 50%. My guess would be it's probably somewhere between 70 and 80% of yoga students and teachers are probably women. So without women today, yoga would not be what it is in any country of the world. The fact that yoga has become so ubiquitous and that you just can find it everywhere is due in very large part to women. And as I said, yoga brings women into, I think, a very beautiful balance with our own bodies, a beautiful union with our own bodies. But we have to remember yoga is not just asana. And so when we look at the history, the beautiful history of bhakti yoga, because remember, of course, where I began, health, wholeness, holiness. So bhakti yoga is a part of health and wholeness, not only because Bhagavan Krishna speaks about it in the Bhagavad Gita, not only in the Sanskrit and Vedic traditions, but even for those who may not subscribe to those traditions, those who may not follow those traditions. Inherent in our health and our wholeness is holiness. So when we look at the bhakti tradition, the lovers of God, from Mirabai to Radharani, from our history to our scriptures, but even beyond that, when you look at our spiritual religious tradition, with every male aspect of the divine, there is a female aspect of the divine. And so when we pray, it's very beautiful. In fact, we always take the name of the female aspect first. So we say, Lakshmi Narayan, Sita Ram, Radha Krishna. We take that female form, but they're together. There's always a Shakti with Shiva. And so in our understandings, in our spiritual, religious, dharmic understandings, because really, of course, ultimately that is yoga, right? I didn't speak too much about the 8 limbs and ultimately samadhi, but that experience of oneness, that bliss of samadhi, that bliss of oneness, is a oneness with the divine, however we conceive of the divine, but a oneness with the divine, a oneness with the infinite within ourselves and in all. And as we look at the aspect of the divine feminine here, we realize that not only in our yoga on the mat and not only in our divine karma yoga and our yoga off the mat, but even just in our understanding of our spirituality, that role of the feminine is essential. That is ultimately the ultimate yoga, right? The Shiva and Shakti. That's the ultimate yoga. The Shakti, the Purush, this coming together of the energies. And so as we are here at this beautiful time of International Yoga Day, it's a beautiful opportunity for us as women to reconnect with that whole, holy Shakti in us, on the mat, off the mat. And it's a beautiful opportunity for men, for our brothers, to recognize that presence of the Shakti within themselves. And for all of us to actually find that beautiful yoga, that beautiful union of wholeness that doesn't have any borders or boundaries, even of gender, and that enables us to really move into full health, full wholeness, and full holiness. And I'll stop there. There's so much more to say, but I'll stop there because I want to have time for questions and answers. And I do have a very sharp, hard stop at 9:30 p.m. India time, 9 a.m. California time. So my sister Sanjana, back to you.
Well, we could keep listening to you. Thank you so much, Sadhviji. That was so enlightening. And we all felt we were by the banks of River Ganga. It was just so soothing listening to your voice. And of course, it is something that actually we cherish. So thank you for joining us. But something that you said that really stood out, Sharir Ek Mandir. And this is something which is so important for people to realize, to pay attention to. And one thing that I would like everybody to know, yoga beyond borders. That's something which I truly witnessed when Sadhviji and Swamiji were at the UN for World Yoga Day a couple of years ago. The lawns of the UN were filled with Americans who came to learn and experience, feel yoga. And that's the day I truly saw the power of how India had actually not just conceptualized but presented yoga to that global audience through Sadhviji and Swamiji. And they also released the stamp at the UN that day. So it was amazing what we saw. And today, since it is World Yoga Day, it's a great reminder and a great memory that you brought back. And I hope we're able to recreate that same Yoga Day back at the UN soon. And with that, I thank you once again, and we go on to the questions. Puja Sadhviji, nowadays many people are facing psychological health issues. Please guide us how yoga and meditation can help overcome this.
Beautiful. And yes, the psychological issues we're facing, and of course, they've become significantly exacerbated during the time of COVID, are really due to fear. What's going to happen to me? I'm going to get sick. My loved ones are going to get sick. What's going to happen to my job, my bank account, our economy? So there's a lot of fear. And yoga, remember, as we've been saying, isn't just asana. In the practice of yoga, we have Jnana Yoga, we have Bhakti Yoga, and the importance of the wisdom that knows that there is an intelligence in the universe. It flows through all, it pervades all. And there is a plan and a purpose in the universe. And in our individual lives, we call that our karmic package, right? That's us unfolding our own individual role in the purpose of the universe. So we dive into Jnana Yoga, path of wisdom, to really understand our purpose here, because it's not, sadly, to live a very, very long and very healthy life. If we do, fantastic, wonderful. May God bless us all with long and healthy lives. But that's not our ultimate dharma. And of course, if we have any questions about that, we just go to the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna makes Arjuna stand up and fight. And one of my favorite pieces there, because of course it's the scripture of yoga, is when Arjuna says, basically, but I could die. Now, Lord Krishna is God. He knows Arjuna's not going to die. He knows what's going to happen, but he doesn't say it. He doesn't say, don't worry, Arjuna, we've got this one. He doesn't say, don't worry. I promise you won't. He says, yeah, you might. But to die on the battlefield doing your dharma is better, exponentially better, than running off to the cave where you will stay alive and be peaceful, as you've said. This is your dharma. So we dive into Jnana Yoga to understand that there is a purpose, that there is a plan, that there is a divine planner, that there is an intelligence, and it connects all of us. We are a thread in the tapestry of life, and we connect to Bhakti Yoga that enables us to have love and faith for that divine, even if it means that our stocks crash. To understand that presence of the divine, we're being held, we're being carried. And when we know that we are in the arms of the divine, there's a beautiful line in our prayers at Parmarth Niketan each day that says, Tu akele nahi pyare, Ram tere saath mein. You are not alone. God is always with you. So we dive into Bhakti Yoga to find that love and that devotion for God. And we study the Yoga Sutras. We follow the 8 limbs of yoga to understand our wholeness and our interconnectedness, because, as I said before, a lot of that stems from this myth of separation. The aloneness, the loneliness, the separateness. And so when I, through a practice of yoga, recognize our union, then those illnesses start to dissipate as we become more rooted in we-ness, wellness.
Well, Sadhviji, we are so blessed once again. And I had the great pleasure of getting this book from you, and that was Come Home to Yourself. So I have to tell you, I keep it very close to my heart, but I'm hearing of a new book that you're coming out with, From Hollywood to the Himalayas, and it's going to be released in early August and is available to pre-order. So could you please tell us about that and how we can get a copy of that? I can't wait to get a hold of that book now.
Sure. So it's a very exciting piece, because it's my story. Yes, as you've shared, I've had books of teachings that have come out that I've been blessed to be able to share with the world. But this is the teachings, of course, but in the full story of how it happened, where I come from, the aspects of the first 25 years of my life that were challenging, that were things that so many people go through, struggles and challenges and hurt and even trauma. And the way that I tried to deal with them, ways that are unskillful, as so many of us turn to unskillful ways to try to manage our pain, our confusion, our challenges. And then how I came to India with a backpack on what I thought was just a short trip, and how I was so deeply touched by Mother Ganga, by this incredible experience that I had on the banks of Ganga, how my guru, Puja Swami Chidanand Saraswati ji, came into my life, transformed me, and showed me how to let go, how to move on, how to actually be free. And for me, what's so exciting about the book is that I think the core teaching in many ways is grace doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter what's happened to you, what you've done. Grace is there for you. And you can not only heal and be transformed, you can be free. You can be free. And of course, it's full of a lot of fun stories, even funny stories about going from being a 25-year-old American to being a celibate nun. Like, what's that like? And to being a woman in religious India, and those experiences, and the experience of teaching and sharing and leading and being able to be just a vehicle, a vessel, a tool in God's hands. And I know Ganga Nandini ji spoke today so beautifully about karma yoga. And there's so much in the book about the power of service, because of course we have the same guru, and that gift of service. What does it really mean to serve, and how can service be a spiritual practice? And yes, the official publication date is August 3rd to get it in bookstores, but you can actually go to Amazon.com right now, and it's already available for pre-sale. And I really look forward to hearing everyone's thoughts, because it's the first time in 25 years that I've been in India. It's the first time that actually my very personal story and very personal struggles and how those healed, that's coming out. So I really look forward to hearing from you. And lastly, I just want to say such deep gratitude to all of you today for this beautiful, beautiful program. And due to COVID, we come together like this. And of course, as Sanjana ji said, we were at the United Nations, and we look so forward to being together again on the banks of Ganga as the united creation. And sure, we can gather again at the United Nations as well, but let's also gather on the banks of Ganga as the united creations. And so, so, so much love to all of you.
Jai Gange, thank you so much for that. Even though I have a whole list of questions, I could keep going on, but I know that you have to go soon. And yes, we are going to order the book soon, because I can't wait to get my hands on the new book. And with that, we come to the certificate of appreciation from Assocham to Puja Sadhviji. This is, of course, being presented by Assocham to Puja Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati ji for her exemplary contribution to the field of yoga, and for being an outstanding example of karma yoga in practice. Thank you so much. Everybody give Sadhviji a big hand. Beautiful. Thank you. And now we have from Parmarth Ashram, the saplings being presented to all the panelists, the esteemed panelists out here.
So at the banks of Ganga, we have no other gift but a sacred Rudraksha sapling. So from Puja Swamiji and from Puja Sadhviji, on behalf of the Divine Feminine, on behalf of Ma, this is a beautiful, beautiful sapling for all of you, which you can take digitally now, but we look forward to having you here physically very soon by God's grace. Shall all be well, and taking this physically when you're here.
We look forward to that. Thank you so much, Nandini. Jai Gange. And we can't wait to come to the banks of River Ganga and sharing that experience. It's not just about meditation or yoga, but it's about the beauty and the love that you give out there. So we look forward to being there with you soon. And once again, this was an amazing panel that we had. From all over the world, we had the Shakti come together to not just celebrate, but to actually recreate and share the secrets of their beauty, youth, and how yoga is so important for our life. Thanks to Assocham for bringing us all together, and Payal for putting this together every time. Meenakshi ji, Assocham is integral in actually recreating this moment for us. So thank you, Meenakshi, Sharma ji, and Payal. And with that, I call on Mrs. Upasana Arora, co-chair Assocham, for your concluding remarks.
Thank you, Sanjana. Actually, right now, I'm in a different word. Thank you, Sadhviji. It was just, I'm nishabd. I don't have even words to explain my feelings, because spirituality is my core of my heart. I cannot live without this. So when you were talking, it was mesmerizing actually. So thank you so much when you were talking about wellness, women, and yoga together. It was really good. And you have said oneness and holiness. Everything was just perfect. There was not, when your words were coming out of your mouth and it was sounding so good to our ears that I was feeling like I am in a different world. Thank you, Taraji. You said Santosh. Actually, if somebody, Kanika ji, you said Santosh. Santosh is the word. If somebody has, then he has nothing to do. He can get that satisfaction. And thank you so much for that. You said dance also. And Taraji, you said ahimsa, which is really required in this word right now when everyone is really violent. So your word ahimsa matters a lot for everybody. Blossom ji, you told us about face yoga. All female wants to look very young and pretty. And with this technique, face yoga, we are going to get benefit. And Ganga, you said Om. You started your speech with Om. And Om has a healing power and it is scientifically proven. When we say Om before our yoga, when we start yoga, we say Om. After that, that energy we can feel from inside, feel from our soul. So thank you so much from everybody was just wonderful. Sanjana, thank you so much for moderating this session so well, perfectly. And you are such a darling, such a sweet soul, such a pure soul. Thank you so much. And what I feel that female should look after themselves more than male, because because we are female, so we have lots of hormonal problems. When we become a teenager, that time we suffer from hormonal problem. And when we are, and at the time of pregnancy and childbirth, we face some hormonal problem. So after that, when there is a menopause time, again we face lots of hormones problem. So for that, we need to do yoga to keep ourselves fit. So we cannot, our mood swings will be in our control. We will feel happy. We will not go into depression. And just as if somebody will say, give a message to females. So I would like to say, after listening all this thing, all our panelists and especially Sadhviji, believe in yourself. Give time to yourself in form of yoga. Give at least 1 hour. In 24 hours, you can give 1 hour to yourself. Love and respect yourself. And especially when our Sadhviji was telling us that live in present moment. Present moment means just now, abhi. If we will start live like this, life will be beautiful. And Assocham, Meenakshi ji, Payal, and everyone, you gave us this opportunity. And today's session was just wonderful. Even wonderful is not a suitable word. I must say, this was the bestest session. So thank you so much, everyone. Thanks a lot. See you soon. And I think it's our karmic account that we could meet Sadhviji. In spirituality, we say there is a karmic account, only then you meet somebody. And it was our karmic account that we could meet Sadhviji and all our dear panelists. So thank you and see you soon, everyone. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye and good night.
Good night. With that, we conclude. Once again, Meenakshi ji, thank you. Payal, thank you. And Assocham, thank you for this great session. And Upasana ji, you concluded it in the best way possible. So Dr. Blossom Kocher and of course, Dr. Kanika Sood and the team at Assocham. This was seamless. And I should say, this was the best session possible. And
Yeah.
we're going to go with having learned so much today. So thank you for having me here today.
Thank you. Thank you.